TV presenter Naga Munchetty claims doctors told her to suck it up when she was trying to get medical support for menstrual and gynaecological issues during her teenage years. Naga says she was gaslighted by the NHS over a 32-year period, forcing her to go to private medicine, where she was diagnosed with adenomyosis, which is a debilitating womb condition that causes heavy bleeding and extreme pain. Giving evidence to the Women and Equalities Committee, she spoke about doctors' reluctance to believe women.
When my husband had to call an ambulance, I had to say to him as I was passing in and out, I was passing out and screaming, you must not let them perform a hysterectomy on me. Because even though I'm outspoken, I felt I would be overruled. No woman says she's in pain unless she is in real pain.
Joining me now is Nikki Allford, who suffers from the same thing, adenomyosis, and also obstetrician and gynaecologist Dr. Larisa Corda. Thank you both for joining me. Let's start with Dr. Corda on this one. This is something that lots of us haven't even heard of, but it's quite clear that Naga Munchetty is perfectly capable of explaining her symptoms, saying how she feels, saying what she's going through, and saying, I need some kind of medical help or intervention to help me cope and withstand this level of pain and suffering, and that she was effectively fobbed off. She says gaslit, but you could say ignored, overruled, something of that kind, sidelined, marginalised. What exactly has she got wrong with her, and how does it feel if you have that particular illness?
Well, Vanessa, sadly, I think it's all of those things that you mentioned in terms of what's happened in this particular case. Now, adenomyosis is a condition where the cells lining the womb are actually found inside the muscle of the womb. So they invade a layer to go somewhere where they're not supposed to be. And this can lead to extremes of chronic pain. It can lead to very heavy and painful periods, pain during sex, and just general all-round pain that can be suffered even outside of a period. It can also make women less fertile as well in the long run. So this is a really serious condition, in a similar way to endometriosis, which people may have heard of a little bit more commonly. But even with that condition, which is as common as diabetes, many people still are unaware of what it involves. Fewer still have heard of adenomyosis, and on average, it takes women between 7 to 8 years to get a diagnosis. So that in itself should tell us a lot about the fact that these particular women's health conditions, especially the reproductive health conditions, have been sidelined for a very, very long time in the medical system that is very heavily patriarchally conditioned, and where just 2% of overall investment in research goes towards women's health and reproductive health.
And when that condition is diagnosed, is it possible to help it? Is it possible to prescribe drugs or perform operations or procedures or something that makes the monthly suffering a little less and alleviates the symptoms?
Absolutely. I mean, the main problem here is the fact that women aren't diagnosed or they're misdiagnosed. And as a result of a misdiagnosis or failure to diagnose, they are mistreated and misunderstood. So yes, it's absolutely possible to get treatment. And most of that treatment is in the form of hormones and other drugs that can be given to help women. There are also surgeries that can be performed as well. But a lot of this is about empowering women to understand their condition and doing something within their own power to try and help. And those things can be through diets, and it can be through other measures that they can undertake themselves. But the main issue exists in the fact that there just isn't enough education. And also, there's a very fragmented medical system that still to this day treats women in a very fragmented and incoherent way. So we continue to divide and separate our mental health from our physical health, and we continue to believe that the mental health and emotional side effects of a condition are just side effects. What we haven't fully accepted, and there is so much research out there about this, is that your emotional health and mental health directly feed into your biological health.
Let me just bring Nikki in, just so I don't run out of time, Doctor, without having a chance to talk to Nikki. Just very briefly, the symptoms that you've been through, first of all,
yes.
and I'm terribly sorry because listening to it sounds absolutely horrific. I'm really sorry. And then whether you got diagnosed and what happened when and if you did.
It's an incredibly difficult journey to get a diagnosis. I got diagnosed in 2016. However, my symptoms actually started as a young teenager. It gets diagnosed so late in life because it's so difficult for them to find. And by the time women are begging for doctors to help them, the adenomyosis is so far gone that it's incredibly difficult for women to carry on with work and just an everyday life as mothers and just trying to get on and be like everybody else. It's really, really tough. So for my journey, I spent most of my adult life fighting for somebody to listen. And very much like Naga Munchetty, I ended up hemorrhaging on the floor and was just constantly told I was too young for any of these conditions for it to affect me.
So when you hear the phrase medical misogyny, so that it's both male and female doctors who are guilty of this kind of, I mean, you could call it a kind of malpractice or a ignorance or an unwillingness or a bigotry or something or other. But so a woman will present, a woman will say, this is what I'm feeling. This is what's happening to me every month. This is how, hugely it's impacting my life. And the doctors will somehow not hear it, not acknowledge it, ignore it. And as Naga says, gaslight. So it seems as if you must be crazy or weird or neurotic or hysterical. So we know that's where the root of the word womb comes from. That you're not to be believed, you're not to be taken seriously. Just get on with it, suck it up, whatever. Is that what you feel you experienced?
100%. And I speak with women every day who have conditions, reproductive health conditions, who have spent their whole adulthood being told almost like they're crazy. And mental health around reproductive and hormone health conditions, it needs to be worked on because there are so many women feeling isolated. These are really difficult conversations to be had. They're quite intimate conversations. And when you're constantly, told you're fine, lose some weight, go on a contraceptive pill, when you are bleeding so heavily that you can barely move, it's incredibly debilitating to a woman who then you feel like you have no voice.
Well, you
do
here today, both of you, and I'm really, really glad that you joined me on the programme. And it's incredibly important to speak out about this. So thank you both very much indeed for your time and your passion today.